Honor and respect, divine, all blessed honor and respect. Greetings and salutations, one and all. It is another edition of Voodoo Hoodoo 101, power promoted, sponsored, and supported by NOIVD, New Orleans International Vodou Day. Today is Thursday, the 27th of August, 2026. Today's astrological weather features a Sun Mercury conjunction in Virgo, a Sun Moon opposition across Virgo and Pisces, and a tight Sun Uranus square, creating a mix of clarity, emotional tension, and sudden shifts. These aspects shaped a day focused on precision, heightened feelings, and unexpected insights. Greetings again. We certainly are grateful and thankful for your continued support and participation to another revolutionary hoodoo, New Orleans Voodoo Secrets and Recipes, Voodoo Hoodoo 101, powered by NOIVD. We're certainly grateful for those who show up, support, and participate by way of our independent as well as collective Facebook pages, profiles, and groups. Certainly our multilingual and international participants and audience who visit us by way of Instagram, YouTube, Twitter X, and always thankful for our IG, Instagram audience and participants. Greetings to you and yours, Lydia Martin 3908, for joining us here live in the chat. We certainly do appreciate your support and continued participation. Greetings to you and yours, Brother Ray Alexander. We certainly appreciate your continued support and participation on platform as well as in the chat. We ask everyone under the sound of my voice to please click like, share, follow, subscribe, reshare the podcast, and certainly share our New Orleans International Vodou Day information and website. Visit us for connection at www.vodouday.org. Again, that's www.vodouday.org. Now in our fourth year, we certainly continue to invite your support, participation, volunteership, donations, sponsorship, again by visiting us at www.vodouday.org. You can also utilize our QR code in the right corner of your screen, our vodouday.org uh, QR code. We invite your participation. And we certainly are thankful for our beloved co hosts, our moderator, our panelist, the beloved Sister Tony Val Martinez, the Queen Mother Tony Val Martinez. Thank you so much for your continued support, dedication, and commitment to the platform and to NOIVD. We're certainly grateful, and we would not be as successful as we are today without your support and your effort. Tonight, as we step deeper into the river of our shared traditions, I welcome you back to Revolutionary Hoodoo, New Orleans Voodoo Secrets and Recipes, Voodoo Hoodoo 101, powered by NOIVD, New Orleans International Vodou Day, where we gather not simply to learn, but to remember what our ancestors carried, what they preserved, what they encoded into tools, vessels, implements, practices, songs that still speak across generations. Tonight, we enter the world of spirit bottles, Haitian, New Orleans, West African, diasporic. We explore how these vessels operate as bridges between realms. Because Voodoo in Vodou, in Voodoo with four O's, certainly in Hoodoo, nothing is ever just an object. Nothing is ever merely decorative. Everything is a container of intention, a carrier of memory, a living participant in the work. When I was studying Pan African traditions at the university level, one of the things that I learned was that Africa, no matter where you found the ethnic group, culture, or tradition, traditionally didn't create art for aesthetics, just to please the eye, just for beauty's sake. All implements, all crafted and created pieces had a utility, had a usage, had a purpose. So nothing was merely decorative. Everything was a container of knowledge, intention, energy, a carrier of memory and wisdom, and a living participant in the work. A spirit bottle is not a charm you place on a shelf. It is a conversation. It is a contract. It is a declaration of relationship between the practitioner, the spirit, and the purpose at hand. And whether it is crafted in the laku of a Haitian Vodou temple, or in the porch of a New Orleans shotgun house, or in the quiet corners of a root worker's altar, the bottle becomes a microcosm of the universe, a world in miniature, sealed and consecrated, much like a aquarium or a planetarium becomes a miniature sealed world or universe, sealed and consecrated. And when we speak of spirit bottles, we are speaking of lineage. In Dahomey and Yoruba traditions, vessels have always been used to house, honor, and direct spiritual force. Calabashes, gourds, clay pots, carved containers, uh, coconut shells, each one chosen with intention. In Haiti, the bottle becomes a repository for the Loa, a place where offerings, signatures, and sacred markings converge. In Louisiana, the bottle becomes a gris in glass form, a portable altar, a protective charm, a spell that can be carried, buried, hung on a bottle tree, or hidden. But let us be clear, these bottles are not toys, they are not curiosities, they are not souvenirs for tourists, they are instruments of power. They require respect, clarity, and understanding. They require the practitioner to know what they are calling, why they are calling, and how they intend to maintain the relationship once the bottle is awakened and activated. In root work, a spiritual bottle might be filled with herbs, roots, minerals, oils, waters, personal concerns. In Vodou, it may contain rum, perfumes, powders, petitions, and veve markings. In Voodoo, it may hold earth from sacred places, river waters, iron filings, or the symbolic elements of a deity. Each tradition shapes the bottle according to its cosmology, but the underlying principle remains the same. The bottle is a vessel for spirit, an activated vessel of intention and transformation. So tonight, I want us to consider the deeper implications of this practice. Because when you create a spirit bottle, you are not simply assembling ingredients, you are constructing a spiritual environment. You are creating a home. You are crafting a space where energies can gather, communicate, and act. And that means you must approach the work with discipline, humility, and knowledge. This is where authenticity matters. This is where understanding the difference between Voodoo, Vodou, Voodoo, and Hoodoo becomes essential. These traditions are related but distinct. They share roots, but they do not share identical practices. A Haitian spirit bottle is not the same as a Louisiana spirit bottle. A West African vessel is not the same as a Creole conjure jar or a sweetened honey jar. And yet, each one carries the echoes of Africa, the memory of a world where spirit is not distant but present, not abstract but embodied. NOIVD, New Orleans International Vodou Day, exists to honor these distinctions, to protect the integrity of each lineage, to create a space where practitioners from across the Pan African diasporic world can stand together without hierarchy, without erasure, without the pressure to homogenize their traditions. And we are here to celebrate the diversity of practice, not flatten it. We're here to uplift the authentic forms of ATR, African traditional religious systems and practices, of African spiritual traditions in the New World, especially here in New Orleans, where so many rivers of culture converge. So tonight, as we explore spirit bottles, spirit vessels, containers, spiritual magical boxes, I invite you to think about your own relationship with the spirit you serve. What do you carry? What do you preserve? What do you honor? And what do you ask for? And what do you give in return? A spirit bottle, a spiritual vessel, a spirit container, a clay vessel or spiritual container is a mirror. It reflects the practitioner's intention, discipline, and understanding. It reveals whether the work is rooted in tradition or drifting in imitation. It shows whether the practitioner is working with the ancestors or merely performing aesthetics. And in this broadcast, we will break down the components of spirit boxes, spirit vessels, magic boxes, clay pots, and containers. It draws to mind the Odu, the specific Odu. In Vodou, we say D, capital D-I. The Yoruba might say Odi, capital O-D-I, the vessel, the container, the uterus, the place where things are encapsulated or incubated, where things are secreted, where mysteries are kept. And so that energy of D, OD, reflects the very ancestral coding of the magic box, the spirit vessel, the container that speaks, the container that holds mysteries and secrets. We will discuss their ritual applications, their symbolic meanings, their protective uses, their healing uses, and their role in conjure, root work, Vodou, voodoo, and voodoo. Root work. We will explore how they function as a spiritual technology, ancient, sophisticated, and deeply African. Because the truth is simple. Our ancestors were scientists of the unseen. They understood energy, vibration, intention, and manifestation long before these words became fashionable. They encoded their knowledge into tools, symbols, songs, and indeed vessels. And the spirit bottle, the spiritual containers, the spiritual vessel, is one of the vessels, a portable archive of ancestral science. Tonight we honor that science. We honor the bottles that sit quietly on altars, glowing with the unseen light. We honor the bottles buried beneath thresholds, guarding homes and temples and businesses and sacred spaces. We honor the bottles carried in pockets, protecting travelers. We honor the bottles sent afloat at sea, traveling to other lands and other locations and other geographies, carrying energies and messages and sometimes history and lineage. We honor the bottles sealed with prayer or filled with purpose and awakened with breath. This is the continuation. This is the remembrance. This is Revolutionary Hoodoo, New Orleans Voodoo Secrets and Recipes. This is Voodoo Hoodoo 101, powered by NOIVD, New Orleans International Vodou Day. We continue to invite your support, your participation, your sponsorship, your donations, your volunteership by visiting us at www.voodooday.org. Please participate in our ongoing GoFundMe campaign as we count the days down towards our fourth annual New Orleans International Vodou Day. Please join the conversation. Step forward with us tonight. Join us on platform by way of our Streamyard QR code in the upper left corner of your screen with the little blue ducky head in the middle, or by utilizing the scrolling Streamyard URL. Come on in, join the platform, join the conversation, share your experience, share your knowledge, share your wisdom, and by all means, ask your questions. We certainly do appreciate you. IG, Instagram, I kind of check in as much as I can periodically for your questions, comments, and requests. But thank you all in the social media spaces for your continued support and participation. We certainly do appreciate you. Before I unmute our beloved moderator, the Queen Mother, Tony Val Martinez, I sort of want to quickly and briefly share a story. One of the first people that I met in voodoo as a practitioner, as a spiritualist, as a reader here in this beautiful, historic, and enchanted city of New Orleans, Louisiana, when I first arrived here some 30 years ago, was Dr. Joy. I love Dr. Joy. She is certainly active and still among us. She has an appearance in our upcoming documentary, Respect to Voodoo. And she is a reader, an elder, a practitioner, and one of my godmothers and mentors. And one of the things, beyond many things that she gifted me, was a box, a sacred box. And on the outside, it might look like, I don't know, Christmas. It's got sort of a Christmassy sort of theme about it, yet the colors aren't quite Christmas. It does have an embossed silver snowflake on it, but inside it contained elements and magic. A large cowrie shell, at the time, one of the largest cowrie shells that I had ever seen or come across or was aware of, in a bed of flower petals, roses, quite fragrant. And buried in that was a naturally terminated, uncut, unpolished, naturally formed clear quartz crystal in a little pouch. And she gifted it to me. And I rarely open the box, even to this day, unless I'm working with it in any particular way. The aroma, the smell, the fragrance alone is enchanting, can send you into an altered state, into a trance-like state, just upon opening the box. And at the time, I was, a street vendor. I was a practitioner of sorts, but primarily, quietly, privately, maybe to some degree, I was a bit in the closet, but I was a street vendor, a long, bedreaded, bejeweled street vendor, selling, hand dipped oil, incense, African jewelry, hand created jewelry, all sorts of products. And it was in the season in which Queen Mother Tony Val and I became friends. She too had a history and experience of vending, selling, Pan African wares, operating, the little cocoa hut, up there on the Bayou Road. We had a lot in common. But Dr. Joy was one of the first spiritualists, practitioners, active and visible online as well as here on the ground at the time that I connected with. I was on a search for, uh, and I mean this literally and figuratively, I was on search for the voodoo church. Not that I heard about a voodoo church, but I assumed, expected it, anticipated that certainly in this New Orleans, this city of voodoo, there had to be a unified center or church or place where the practice was, being done, where the community was gathering. And I quickly learned that there was none. Now, there were pockets of communities. Certainly, Lukumi is present, Santeria was present, Ifa was present in all of its manifestations and disseminations. And certainly, voodoo was here. But it was very segmented, I would say. Certainly, there's that tourist element that existed even before Hurricane Katrina that only got elevated the more after Katrina when the arrival of sort of the Hollywood South phenomenon kicked in. But she was one of the few active, known practitioners, along with our beloved priestess Miriam. May she now, rest in power. May she now rest in her room. May she now rest in Guinan. May she now rest in the bosom of the ancestors and join as a newly transitioned ancestor. And many other practitioners, too long a list for me to really name right now, were active and present here on the scene. But Dr. Joy gave me this box, and in it was all I can describe it is a spirit, an energy, some kind of fix, some kind of repair that catapulted me a great deal into the personage and the life that I'm living today, and the person of whom I have become. I had, improper dialogue back then, utilizing language and words that weren't positive, that didn't feed my best interests. I didn't even have a computer then. I was not online except for maybe checking my email at the public library on the occasion. But I couldn't even afford a computer back then. And I remember she and I discussing it after she had given me this box. And she asked me, well, what do you mean, you don't have a computer? I said, well, I'm struggling. Oh my God. I might as well have called her out of her name. The word struggle was a violation, was a crossword, was a profanity in her presence. And she admonished me for even speaking the word, admonished me never to use that word again in her presence. That again, our realities create and recreate who we are, who we become, and certainly the realities that we live within. And not very long after, Hurricane Katrina hit our city, and we were all forced to move, relocate, evacuate, and in many cases, transform. Uh, uh, Queen Mother Tony might say shapeshift, depending on who we're discussing, into other people in order to sort of fit where we had relocated into, or fit into the new found communities that we are now building or integrating into. But this box became sort of central to my spiritual implements. It has the energy of Oya all in it and through it, as well as, certain symbolism and associations that we associate with cowrie shells, and particularly the larger sort of multicolored cowrie shells. I also keep spirit bottles. Long before I began my journey into Haitian voodoo, initiating into authentic voodoo practice, spirit, hoodoo, conjure had sort of led me to creating honey jars, sweet jars, spirit bottles, spirit vessels that contain energy, that contain power. One of the things that I inherited and received from my mother's mother when she made her transition in 2000 was one of her jewelry boxes. And in this jewelry boxes were certain items that I still can't sort of explain. Little bundles of entwined hair pinned together with long sort of hat pins, sort of pin like X's, like crosses, with these, bundles of hair sort of twirled around them. And much like Marie Laveau, my grandmother was a hairdresser. She had her own business, her own salon, built into the basement of her house, and her clientele would come and visit her there. Um, but it was long after her passing and going through her stuff that we found powders and herbs and things that you would commonly find at the Botanica. Among her stuff, as well as her two sisters who had also transitioned among their stuff. So that sort of secret of practice and root work and conjure was sort of beginning to leak out and come to the surface. But I still to this day keep that jewelry box as a part of my altar implements for the ancestors, for the eguns, for the dead. I only go in it, open it, It still plays music when you open it. It still will chime and will wind up. But I don't do it very often, sort of to maintain, the mechanisms. It does have some age on it at this point. But these vessels, created as well as inherited, contain energy, contain force, often contain footprint that is imbued into the vessel. So I invite you to come on into the conversation. I know I've sort of spoken a little bit at length this evening. Greetings to you and yours, beloved Queen Mother, Sister Tony Val Martinez. What say you and how you doing?
Hello, how are you? Panel and listening audience, Brother Alexander.
Hello, everyone.
Um, yeah, I do the bottle trees. Um, I don't have mine set up at the new house because I had them on a metal tree and undoubtedly it got lost in the move.
Oh, wow.
So I have the bottles and but I don't have the metal tree. So I have to get me another tree. I hope to start working on my backyard next month, and that's one of the first things I'm going to do. I go with the cobalt blue bottles, and I clean them. I get them at thrift stores. Actually, I've been collecting bottles over years, and I get them at thrift stores because they are expensive. And I clean them and soak them in Florida water before I put them out. And the basis of that is to collect spirits that mean good around your house. And once they're attracted to the bottles, they go inside and they can't get out. And when the sunlight comes, it burns them up in it. I don't have a good relationship with boxes, unlike the Divine Prince. No one reliable has left me a box, a jewelry box, or given me a box. And also, I'm very superstitious and afraid of what is called in the Jewish community a divot box. So that's something I would never buy. A music box, a seal box, or nothing. I no. But people who you can depend on and trust are, a practitioner that gives you something as the Divine Prince mentioned Dr. Joy. I remember Dr. Joy, you always talking about Dr. Joy Prince. Um, that is a good thing. That's another way to seal energy. And I can see where at certain times when you want to remember an individual or just for some peace that you will go and open a box and touch those things that are inside the box. Um I don't do good with bottles, seal bottles, decorative bottles. I had a friend who recently went to Morocco and he wanted to bring me back a souvenir. And I said, whatever you do, don't bring me no seal bottle or no lamp. I don't want to be rubbing it and cleaning it and something come out. So, but I have I'm very superstitious and I have a lot of superstitions. So y'all pretty much can't judge me on that line. But that's what I do. What about you, Brother Alexander?
Hi. So I actually, when I was listening to Divine Prince's opening, one of the things I thought about, well, first I do carry like protection. I do have like protection jars on my working altar, and mojo bags and things of that nature. And I have heard from elders of old school conjurers using like their Bibles effectively as these types of objects. But one thing I wanted to ask, because I do come from the hoodoo side, but I enjoy sitting at the foot of elders and priests from the initiatory side, is the understanding the roots of things and how it translates to the broader public, not broader public, but to the rest of the diaspora, I guess I would say. And one of the interesting things I wanted to ask the Divine Prince is that he's a Pan-African spiritualist and he's got this working encyclopedia of all of is that to my Louisiana's branch of voodoo and hoodoo is very different than some of the other regional variations of hoodoo. And so I guess it was just like gris versus mojo bag, because Louisiana, you'll hear like gris bag and things of that nature, but outside of Louisiana you're going to hear like a mojo bag. And I don't know if that's particularly because Louisiana had a very unique mix of ethnicities and cultures that's a little bit different than the rest of the country. There's that Senegal mix, right, and there's a stronger Congo presence. And if that's correct, is some of this? I guess I thought of this was more related to the Congo side and some of the Nkisi things, but like I do know the Grigi comes from the Senegal and like Muslim culture, and I guess I want to take the opportunity to be able to ask these questions of like I understand what we have and like general hoodoo, but I always wanted to understand the roots, right? And so when I sit with priests, like for instance on the Ifa and Lukumi side, I can see like the technology and methods and translate, even though it's different roughly, the translation in hoodoo, I can still see the connection, and I think that's beautiful. And with voodoo, that's what I wanted to kind of like get into, like the translations and how things change from place and region. And so that's why I thought it was fascinating this topic.
I always thought they was the same thing.
Yeah,
A gris bag and a mojo bag. Just the language was different. And I thought that too was because of the French. The French that we use, that we say some words different in hoodoo than it does in other areas. And we had a large population of mixed cultures that blended together. And I guess it's just what family line you went down, because I noticed that the Creole blacks here in the city say gris. And I don't want to say like non-Creole, but the other people, they'll say, yeah, my mojo bag, so that's what I kind of deducted from the difference. You can tell me anyone, I'm gonna know what you're talking about.
Right.
But they're interchangeable to me,
And New Orleans,
they pretty much hold the same thing.
And New Orleans has always been a port city from the beginning, even until the present day. So there are a mix of ethno-cultural practices and traditions, and not just African. We have the Irish Channel, we had the German sector, we had the American sector, which was separate from the French Quarter portion of the city, and so practices, traditions made their way, particularly when you start sort of evolving away from Vodou, Haitian Vodou, Louisiana Voodoo, or even New Orleans Voodoo, into more of a hoodoo practice. And then you see the formulation of new words, new language usage, new ways of sort of speaking and addressing certain subjects and certain topics. There's also the history of a retribution and what is illegal and what could have gotten you sort of killed here in the South, and particularly in New Orleans, that also created sort of a diverging language usage as it relates to these practices. Some people suggest that voodoo is a bastardization that came as a result of some attempt to separate from the Haitian practice, or even to demonize the practice among our community here locally. Some even suggest that hoodoo was a quote unquote watering down or bastardization of, and they're not taking into account the fact that again this was a port city, a multilingual city, a multi-ethnic city, a city of divergent practices, often coming together in that proverbial gumbo pot, if you will. So you will hear regional language, regional usages here, certainly up the Mississippi Delta, certainly among the Gullah Geechee and the Carolinas and Georgia. You'll hear different phraseology, different word usage, but it's not uncommon to find sort of a footprint of diverse practices and traditions in New Orleans specifically.
And
One of the things,
one thing, you were mentioning all the different cultures that were here. And I noticed this a lot, that people tend to forget that the Spanish ruled what we call New Orleans longer than the French did.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
The Spanish had it longer and they had to have a strong influence. Also, another thing I like to say in pronunciation of words from the different dialects, we also have to remember we came here speaking our mother tongues. We learned from people who were speaking what we call English today as a second language with heavy accents. So, what they meant and what we heard out their mouth was a lot of times two different things. I
mhm.
could see somebody not understanding that a Frenchman was saying voodoo and thinking they were saying hoodoo with the V. You think my husband was Cuban and he was speaking English, which was his separate language. And one of the things me and him used to chime back and forth with was how he pronounced his words, his English words. And I was like, bruh, if we had a child, they wouldn't speak English. They would speak Spanglish because I don't know what you're trying to say. But eventually it comes out. So we have the language barriers of the people who taught us English also, on how we pronounce certain things and how we say our sentences. Because, like I said, we learn from people who didn't speak English in a port city. So that's basically, all the translations, all the different words, that adds a lot to the variations and how things got mixed up in communication, but they actually the same thing. We just say it different.
Mm-hmm. And
I
it's
think one of
also,
the
go
oh, go
ahead.
for, I was gonna say I think one of the most interesting things about Louisiana, unless you're from Louisiana, you're not gonna understand it. But it is that gumbo, right? But outside of Louisiana, Mississippi, people have a very I want to say fixed, but have a strong idea of hoodoo, and they have a very strong of Haitian voodoo, but they don't have too much understanding of the Louisiana culture and how those things look a little bit different. And so if you go to over to the Gullah Geechee region, or if you go, for instance, towards Miami, you might see like I've seen Divine Prince in the past have to educate people on Louisiana voodoo and its authenticity, in regards to even Haitian voodoo practitioners in past years. And so I always think that's interesting how you kind of have to translate and tell people about our culture and some of the nuances of it.
There is also as we draw the conversation to the close, at least for tonight, there's also a documented pattern among archaeologists, social scientists, if you will, of ethnic cultural traditions being outright, lying to the authors, trying to dilute the truth of their practices, making some attempt to sort of protect the secrets and mysteries of their practice and the tradition, while still sort of feeding the author, the archaeologist, the book, researcher, information about the practice. So that also helped to sort of blur the lines and create misunderstanding about certain word usage, particularly here in New Orleans and around the practice here in New Orleans. Some even sort of blame or attribute to Marie Laveau, though I think it's not fair that she somehow introduced entertainment as an element into voodoo, or even introduced white people to voodoo for that matter. And I don't really think that's the case. I think she filled a void that existed. She stepped into a relationship that probably already existed with the oppressors and the colonizers
and the
masters, already being exposed to our practices and our traditions, attempting to bastardize our practices and our traditions, but then seeing us attempt to sort of rebirth or act out from a spiritual context and wanting to keep the foot on our neck in terms of the bastardization of that, the demonization of that. Oh, you niggas don't know what y'all doing. That's just your imagination. You ain't got no connection to spirit. And we still sort of do that today as it relates to church, religions, spiritual demonstration from varying communities, individuals, groups.
Commercialization.
That questioning still survives. But particularly in that point of time, they certainly did not want to support any validity of voodoo or our African spirit practice, especially after the results of the Haitian Revolution. They certainly consciously sought to demonize it, wipe it out, remove it from our memory, and bastardize it, even when we still continued to believe and demonstrate. But we certainly have run out of time. Please forgive me. I certainly appreciate everyone who continues to show up and support us weeknights at 9 p.m. Central Standard Time by way of a platform near you or by way of our social media pages, groups, and profiles: Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, YouTube, Twitter X, and certainly IG, Instagram. Thank you so much to our beloved community member, family member, Daniel Neal, here on the ground, local, hands-on, but also helping to support us and promote us in the virtual spaces. Thank you, Ray Alexander, for your continued support and participation. And the beloved moderator, the Queen Mother, Sister Tony Val Martinez, community mother, community activist, community research person, and community agitator, necessary community agitator. Until next time, until tomorrow night, remembering that all is truly and indeed a blessing. If you can just see beyond the veils, because it's all just an illusion and a test and one of the greatest divine mysteries of this life cycle. Ayibobo, Odabo, Asheo, and good night.
Good night, everyone.
Good night, everybody.
When people think of African fabrics, they usually name these two, Ankara and Kente, and that's honestly a problem because while those textiles are incredible, they represent only a tiny fraction of Africa's textile heritage. Across the continent are fabrics so extraordinary that many people, even Africans, have never heard of them. Some are made from tree bark, some are painted with mud, some take months to weave entirely by hand, and each one tells a story that deserves to be remembered. Let's take a journey across Africa. Our first stop is Uganda. Long before factories produced fabric, the Baganda people were making cloth from something most people would never imagine: tree bark, specifically the bark of the motuba tree. Artisans carefully remove the bark without harming the tree, then soak and beat it for hours until it transforms into a soft, rich brown textile. This tradition is more than 700 years old. In fact, UNESCO has recognized Ugandan bark cloth as part of humanity's intangible cultural heritage. Now, let's travel west to Mali. At first glance, Bogolanfini looks like a beautiful black black and white pattern fabric. But what makes it remarkable isn't just how it looks, it's how it's made. The cloth is first dyed using natural plants, then artisans painted by hand using fermented river mud. For generations, this fabric has communicated identity before a single word was spoken. Next, we arrive in southeastern Nigeria, home to Akwete cloth. For centuries, women in the town of Akwete have woven intricate textiles on traditional looms, creating bold, geometric patterns with extraordinary precision. These aren't simply fabrics, they're living archives of culture. Our final stop is Burkina Faso. Here, you'll find Faso Danfani, a beautiful hand-woven cotton fabric that became much more than clothing. It became a symbol of national pride. Former President Thomas Sankara encouraged Burkina-based citizens to wear locally woven textiles instead of imported fabrics. Not because imported fabrics lacked beauty, but because supporting local artisans meant protecting culture, creating jobs, and investing in African craftsmanship. These fabrics remind us that Africa's contribution to fashion didn't begin with today's designers. It began centuries ago. Luxury isn't only defined by famous fashion houses or recognizable logos. Sometimes luxury is measured by heritage, by craftsmanship, by the generations of knowledge woven into every piece. And this is why we're building Kesaruva, not just as a shopping app, but as a platform where African designers, artisans, and brands can share their craftsmanship with the world. If you love learning about African fashion and culture, like this video, share it with someone who needs to see it, and follow for more stories celebrating Africa's incredible fashion heritage. And if you'd like to shop directly from amazing African and Black-owned fashion brands, join the shopping waitlist through the link in our bio because we're launching the Kesaruva app this summer. Let's make African craftsmanship impossible to overlook.
Please, allow me to show you something.
They say I'm crazy and that might be true. I got this white in my DNA, yeah, I'm coming for you. It's time we turn the tables, flip these motherfuckers on you. I wanna see you hanging from trees, it's time you pay for your dirt and your showtime. You created the monster, you created the beast. Now all this savagery you just gon' reap. I'm coming home, daddy, to the plantation, and I'm taking the lives of everybody, including the children, on some Nat Turner away. Do you hear that sound? It's about to go down. Unleash the beast, we about to tear this motherfucker down. Do you hear that sound? It's about to go down. Unleash the beast, we about to tear this motherfucker down. I met my girl Harriet at the gate. If you wanna know how she doing, yeah, she straight. But she had one question: when we gon' get up? All that talking tough, yeah, we don't walk it tough. She got it locked and loaded, got that piece up on her side. She looked me in my eyes and said, "Mitch, you ready to ride?" Moving forward, you gotta use both eyes. Watch your front and watch watch your back. Keep your hands up on your game. Do you hear that sound? It's about to go down. Unleash the beast, we about to tear this motherfucker down. Do you hear that sound? It's about to go down. Unleash the beast, we about to tear this motherfucker down. He sit at the table, but he don't order no bacon. He greet me in those words, assalamu alaikum. Got them glasses on his face and them waves in his head. He go by the name of Detroit Red. He looks me in my eye and says you only get one try. Know that your biggest opposition will come from the inside. I know you wanna love them all, but don't even try, because they'll smile up in your face while plotting your demise. Do you hear that sound? It's about to go down. Unleash the beast, we about to tear this motherfucker down. Do you hear that sound? It's about to go down. Unleash the beast, we about to tear this motherfucker down.